Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking Chapter 14, the Interview Day Playbook. Basically, this is your ultimate survival guide for the high-stakes AI system design interview round. If you're going after a role in AI, this is exactly where those offers are won and lost. It's that pivotal moment where the interviewer stops caring if you memorized basic terminology and starts testing if you can actually design a system that holds up in the wild, in production.
So you've got exactly 45 minutes to showcase your technical judgment under total ambiguity. How do you prove you can build systems that actually work in the real world? Remember, the interviewer isn't just grading a pretty whiteboard diagram. They're grading your ability to reason. They want to see how you handle real users, real failure modes, and a model that is right most of the time, sure, but can be confidently wrong in ways you literally cannot predict. All right, let's treat this agenda like our very own digital whiteboard. We'll be hitting 1. The first 5 minutes. 2. Bending the 5-layer spine. 3. Narrating trade-offs and committing. 4. Designing the failure story. 5. Absorbing interviewer follow-ups. And finally, 6. Managing the clock. We are going to map out exactly how you should structure your time from minute 0 to minute 45. Let's dive in.
Okay, Section 1. The first 5 minutes. Scoping out loud. We start right at the beginning, because honestly, this is where the design is quietly won or lost before you even draw a single box. The absolute most common way to tank this round is to start designing way too soon. Weak candidates just jump straight to architecture, but strong candidates, they use these 3 crucial steps to scope out loud and really pin down the problem. First, restate the problem in your own words. It confirms you heard it right and, frankly, buys you a beat to think. Second, ask load-bearing clarifying questions. Don't just ask everything, ask what actually matters. Like, what's the cost of a wrong answer? Or what specific actions require human sign-off? And third, state your data assumptions clearly and write them down. If you're assuming you'll be processing thousands of mostly prose articles, say it out loud. Why? Because architecture always follows data.
Now, what's really interesting here is the problem-first framework. You have to aggressively narrow the scope and define the measurable outcome before you ever reach for an AI intervention. Work backwards. Identify the user and their pain. Say a support agent grinding through 60 repetitive tickets a shift. Then define a hard outcome, like deflecting 70% of those tickets, but with a strict ceiling on wrong actions. Only then do you introduce AI and you keep its job as small and tightly focused as possible.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. The most expensive mistakes in AI systems are designed in before a prompt is ever written. This is exactly why you never, ever skip scoping. Jumping straight to a vector database without asking about the cost of a wrong answer, that's a guaranteed fail. If you solutionize during the problem statement, like saying, oh, let's build a RAG agent, before knowing if retrieval is even necessary, you're designing in a massive, costly mistake right out of the gate.
Moving on to Section 2, bending the 5-layer spine, structuring your answer. Once the problem is scoped, you need a structure strong enough to hang any AI system on.
And that structure is this 5-layer framework. By explicitly writing these 5 layers on the whiteboard, you instantly give your interviewer a map, and you guarantee you won't forget critical steps under pressure. Okay, so layer 1 is your model, the engine. Layer 2 is the wrapping layer. This is where most of your design lives, involving retrieval, tools, and memory. Layer 3 is evals and guardrails, which is absolutely paramount. Layer 4 covers production, ops, serving, all that scale stuff. And layer 5, that's reserved for optimization, like caching or multi-agent routing.
Now here's the secret to really standing out. Tell the interviewer exactly which layer carries the weight for this specific problem. Naming the load-bearing layer earns you the right to quickly gloss over the lighter ones. For instance, for a support agent, the heavy lifting is usually in layer 2, the retrieval and tools. But if it's a massive high-throughput system, that weight shifts to layer 4. Calling this out shows you aren't just reciting a memorized template, you actually understand the core engineering challenge.
Section 3. Narrating trade-offs and committing, weighing your options. Deep into the interview, this is where you prove your technical judgment by thinking out loud.
The interviewer is listening closely to how you reason between 2 perfectly good options. Never just recite a menu of technologies. Explicitly contrast methods, like retrieval versus fine-tuning, make a choice, and then tell them exactly what data would make you change your mind. You might say, well, I'm defaulting to retrieval here because it's auditable and keeps knowledge fresh. But if our main failure mode turns out to be the model refusing to output our exact JSON format, I'd switch to fine-tuning. That right there shows incredible operational maturity.
It's all about the tension triangle. You have this unavoidable trade-off between cost, latency, and quality. You simply can't maximize all 3. So name your binding constraint out loud. Whether it's a strict latency budget or cost per ticket, design purely around it. Don't pretend this tension doesn't exist. If adding a re-ranker costs you 200 milliseconds, you have to decide out loud if that quality boost is worth blowing past your latency floor. Pick the core your business cares about most and defend it.
And remember, evaluation is the release gate, not an afterthought. Because AI models are non-deterministic, making evaluation the center of your design proves you've actually shipped real systems. In traditional software, tests run before you ship. In AI, evaluation is the beating heart of the design itself. If you propose swapping in a cheaper model to save money, you must immediately follow up with, and this only ships if the evaluation set proves it holds our grounded answer rate.
All right, section 4, designing the failure story, how it breaks. This section right here, this separates the experts from the novices. Proactively turning to your system's inevitable failures is a power move. AI systems will generate wrong answers. It's just the nature of the beast. So, a design with no account of its own failure is just a fantasy. You have to get ahead of the interviewer. Don't wait to be asked. Describe exactly how your AI will break. Explain how, say, a retriever might miss a key document, causing the model to hallucinate. And then tell them exactly what that mistake will cost the business. What is the blast radius?
To manage that blast radius, you need human-in-the-loop checkpoints. Escalation should always be your safe default. This is how the system fails gracefully without the customer paying the price. You define a precise relevance floor. Basically, if the system can't find a confident answer in the knowledge base, it doesn't just guess, it triggers a human checkpoint. This simple move turns what could be a catastrophic hallucination into a routine escalation.
Section 5. Absorbing interviewer follow-ups. Locating the change. As we hit the final stretch, the interviewer is going to throw curveballs.
They want to see if your architecture can actually withstand shifting requirements. When they suddenly say, hey, we're increasing traffic 10x, or they add a strict compliance rule, do not panic and start erasing your whole whiteboard. Instead, locate the change. Calmly name the specific layer that absorbs the impact. A great meta move to state early on is that most business changes will land in the data and evaluation layers. So if they say the system is suddenly highly regulated, you don't tear down your boxes. You just adjust Layer 3's guardrails and Layer 2's data permissions. Easy. Finally, Section 6. Managing the clock, the 45-minute timeline. All of these brilliant strategies will completely fail if you run out of time before explaining them. Impeccable pacing is everything. So here is your literal march against the clock. Stick to this chronological budget. Notice you spend a solid 20 minutes deep diving into the load-bearing layer. But, and this is critical, you absolutely must reserve those 5 minutes at the 33-minute mark for evaluation and the failure story. Candidates who spend 30 minutes geeking out on retrieval and never reach evals, they fail on time management alone. If you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, let it be this mantra. It will guide you safely through the ambiguity of that interview room. State your assumptions out loud so the interviewer understands your context. Narrate your trade-offs so they can hear your technical judgment. And always, always have a story for failure. Because shipping AI without expecting it to fail means you haven't really shipped AI at all. So now that you have the playbook, how are you going to bend that 5-layer spine to conquer your next big technical challenge? Whether you're building a voice support agent or some massive text-to-SQL analytics engine, this framework is your roadmap. The playbook is yours, but the real test is out there. Which layer will carry the weight for you? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, good luck in that interview room.